Welcome back to the Patriot, the Preacher. We have a very special guest joining us. I got to meet this gentleman before he became the nominee for Virginia, for the Republican nominee, and I'm really excited to have him join us right now. So many of our listeners want to hear from him. Glenn Youngkin, welcome to the show, sir.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And this is an incredibly important time for all of Virginia. And I was just so blessed to come out of the nominating process with an enormous amount of momentum as the Republican Party came together kind of like never before.
Yeah.
And everybody came together and everybody endorsed me right afterwards because I think as Republicans, we're tired of losing.
Yes.
And here's our moment. Here's our moment to win and get Virginia moving in the right direction again and putting her back where she belongs as the best state in America to live and work and raise a family.
Absolutely. And so the listener, not everybody has really heard your background, although those that have seen you personally have heard it. But your commercials are great, by the way. Tell us who Glenn Youngkin is. And then the second part of that question is, what is the core motivating factor that made you throw your hat in the ring?
Yeah, well, I'm a homegrown Virginian and I love Virginia. And that was one of the core motivating factors because I have had an amazing journey in Virginia. I was born in a little part of Richmond called Bon Air. Mm-hmm. And in seventh grade, my dad lost his job and my whole family got turned upside down. And my mother, who was just my hero, grabbed us all and said, we're going to go restart in Virginia Beach. And so we moved down to Virginia Beach and we started to chart a new path. I got a job when I was 15, taking out trash and washing dishes at a diner down at Virginia Beach, the Belvedere Hotel coffee shop. And I learned that there's real dignity in work. And I really loved opening up at 6 a.m. and I was in charge. And that was really a moment in my life where I learned that hard work matters, that in fact, cashing that paycheck is an incredibly purposeful moment. And I've never lost that. I had a chance to play college basketball in Texas. And great things happened to me in Texas. The most important one was I met my lovely wife, Suzanne. She brought me to faith, and it makes my life better every single day. And we've been in Northern Virginia, where we moved back to 27 years ago. I had a amazing moment where I got to go work for a small company now 26 years ago, the Carlyle Group. And as the Carlyle Group grew from small to big, I had the great fortune of getting a chance to run it. And last summer, though, and this is why I'm running for governor. Last summer, I just had this amazing conviction come over my heart that was really based on the fact that Virginia's in the ditch. Mm-hmm. And the left liberal progressive policies that have been jammed down our throat in Richmond because we have single party rule have really thrust Virginia into chaos. Our economy has been in chaos. Our schools are in chaos. Law enforcement's in chaos. And last summer, I just decided that I felt really called into doing something about it. Republican Party had lost for 11 years in a row, mm-hmm. and we got to find a new path. And so I quit my job, and I prayed over it with my lovely wife, Suzanne, and we committed ourselves to try to make as big a difference as we could. And we came out of the nominating process with just an amazing sense of purpose. And we're running hard. And based on the Washington Post article a few weeks ago that Glenn Youngkin has a surprisingly good chance of winning in Virginia, and out of the Washington Post, they might as well have gone ahead and set me up at the inaugural ball as a result. We feel really good about all the people coming behind us to win in November.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that impressed me was before you even had the nomination, you actually have a ground game out there that's a second to none. And on top of it, you have actually partnered up with other candidates for the State House to make it really a team effort. And I've never really seen anybody do that so early.
Well, first of all, the playbook that's been run in Virginia over the last 10 plus years hasn't worked very well. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that I think I'm really gifted with is I'm very good at strategy and execution, mm-hmm. and we're going to operate the game plan. And the most important thing here is how do we, in fact, connect and communicate our vision for where Virginia should be to Virginians? Right. And we do that first by having a great ground game with lots of people out telling the story. We do that by bringing together all the candidates. And to me, this seems like common sense. Well,
Sure.
I have a great lieutenant governor candidate in Winsome Sears. She'll be the first Black woman immigrant to serve as Virginia's lieutenant governor.
Mhm.
And I have a great attorney general candidate in Jason Miyares, who, by the way, his mother fled communist Cuba under Castro. And over 50 years later, she was able to cast a vote for her son to serve in Virginia's House of Delegates.
Right.
And so why in the world would we not come together as a great ticket and go win? But we also are partnering up with all of the folks running for the House of Delegates, and we're going to take back our House of Delegates, but also all of the local seats, sheriffs and supervisory board members and school board members. This is a really important time for Republicans to come together and win. And I fully believe we will in November.
Well, like you said, if the Washington Post is already saying that about you before they even knew who your opponent would be, that's pretty impressive. So Glenn, let's go down the list. There's a lot of things that my listeners wanted me to ask, and I know you're more than willing to share your thoughts. So what do you plan on accomplishing? What are your goals for the first 100 days once you take office?
Well, I actually believe that on day one, we're going to press forward with our most important priorities. And I can just tell you, it's first, getting this economy open and thriving. And we're going to do that by first carving back the mound of red tape that's been piled on Virginia's businesses. We absolutely have to preserve right to work. And Terry McAuliffe wants to get rid of right to work. He has said it. That bill to get rid of right to work comes to his desk, he's going to sign it. And that will force all of Virginia's workers to take a portion of their paycheck and put it in Terry McAuliffe's union boss friend's pocket. We're just not going to let that happen. Virginia's workers should be able to decide, do I want to join a union or not join a union? We, in fact, are going to make sure that the job machine is turned back on. And I believe that the heart and soul of our economy is small business. And under the policies and programs that Terry McAuliffe and Ralph Northam put in place, Virginia has all of a sudden been ranked 49th on innovation, against all of our peer states. And on top of that, 25% of Virginia's businesses either were permanently closed or partially closed in the last 12 months. This is the Virginia business climate that I will be handed based on the failed policies of Terry McAuliffe and Ralph Northam. And so we have got to do something to reinvigorate small business. And I believe that small business should be granted a tax holiday where they, in fact, can run for a while and take their profits and reinvest them fully in growth. Mm-hmm. And this is what we have to do to reinvigorate this vital part of our business community. Second big bucket for me is education. And as I said earlier, Virginia's schools are in a state of chaos. And it's chaos that has been driven by the fact that we've allowed the teachers associations to overwhelm common sense in order to drive their agenda. Mm-hmm. Our schools were closed for such an extended period of time unnecessarily, while we watch schools in places like Florida open 5 days a week since August. And as a result, Florida's kids are so far out in front of Virginia's kids, while we had our board of education and our state superintendent try to tell Virginia's families that leaving your kid in front of a computer for 8 hours a day is a quality education. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely unacceptable.
Right.
So we're going to get moving by taking back the authority of determining curriculum and schools opening. We're not going to fund schools that are closed. And we, in fact, are going to appoint a board of education that's going to prioritize a real curriculum over top of a political agenda, critical race theory, that they are pushing through our entire school system.
Right.
And it is absolutely driving parents of all political persuasions nuts. They're rising up and standing in front of these mandates coming from school boards and saying, we're not going to do this. And what's amazing is that parents and teachers are actually doing the job that politicians should be doing and aren't doing on their behalf. Well, I'm going to tell you, as governor, we will not teach critical race theory in our schools, and I will stand up for parents and teachers and students because they deserve it.
Absolutely.
School boards and teachers unions should be working for families, not the other way around.
That,
And then finally, on community safety, we have an amazing opportunity in front of us because of the deep depths of what has resulted from the Terry McAuliffe, Ralph Northam policies. First and foremost, they have done nothing to try to keep our communities safe. When Terry McAuliffe was governor of Virginia, the murder rate in Virginia went up 43%. 43%. And here we find again the homicide rate in Virginia at record highs. This reflects failed policies and failed leadership. They also want to get rid of qualified immunity, and everyone should pay attention to this issue. Qualified immunity protects our law enforcement heroes from frivolous civil lawsuits.
mm-hmm.
And the challenge we have right now is that the left liberal progressive agenda is to get rid of it. And guess what's going to happen? There's going to be a massive, massive retirement of the most experienced law enforcement heroes that we have. People are not going to want to, in fact, take on this career. We're already suffering from that with understaffing levels that are just shocking. And folks, if we think that the best way to build the world's best law enforcement capability is to underfund and take away qualified immunity and drive people out of the profession, then common sense truly has been checked at the door.
Absolutely.
And so as governor, we're going to invest in law enforcement. We're going to protect qualified immunity. And oh, by the way, those sheriffs who recently switched from being Democrats because they could no longer stomach this progressive left liberal policy agenda to Republicans will be proud, because we're going to make sure that communities are safe. We're going to make sure that law enforcement, in fact, is well funded. And we're going to put Virginia in a place where we're proud of our law enforcement, because they can keep us all safely at church, in our schools, at home, shopping, all the things we need to do that underpin a thriving community.
Absolutely. So before we go, I know you have to leave soon. I'm assuming what your answer is going to be, but I know the listeners want to hear this. What about the Second Amendment, Glenn? Where do you stand on that?
I'm a strong defender of all constitutional rights. And oh, by the way, the Second Amendment is right there with the First Amendment. I believe that, in fact, Virginians are so tired of being wedged in on the Second Amendment topic. And let me tell you, Virginians do not want a government that is going to ban guns, ban ammunition, walk into our homes and actually try to take away people's guns.
Mm-hmm.
This is not at fringes. This is Virginians.
Right.
And this is guaranteed under our Second Amendment.
Absolutely.
I'll also say our First Amendment rights have so been under assault. Religious freedom, freedom of speech. I mean, we just saw this poor teacher in Loudoun County actually try to stand up in front of his school board and actually say disagreed with a pending policy. And because he expressed this, exercised his First Amendment right, he was in fact immediately put on administrative leave. But let me tell you, that's what's wrong with the left liberal agenda, is they don't believe in our constitutional rights. And I'm going to tell everybody that I do. I will stand up for our constitutional rights, because guess what? They are unassailable in my mind. And by the way, thank goodness for this judge in Loudoun County who came around and said, yes, his First Amendment right will be protected and you will reinstate him immediately. And so, hats off to that judge for standing up for our First Amendment rights.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of that, I wanted to ask you this. I'm sure you're aware of what Governor DeSantis did with the legislation regarding Facebook. And
I am.
Yeah,
I am.
Would you consider doing something like that, Glenn?
Absolutely. And what Governor DeSantis has done on many fronts. But oh, by the way, Republican governors across this great country have done on many fronts is lead and stand up for those basic common sense principles and rights that we are guaranteed. And so Governor DeSantis actually saying to big tech, we'll fine you if you, in fact, try to cancel us or prohibit us from doing all the things that everybody else can do, is a absolute correct step forward in order to protect Virginians from literally whimsical, if not politically driven, big tech.
Right.
And what I've seen over and over again is, and everybody around the country is watching this, is Republican governors have led in a way that have resulted in their states having the best economies, the best standard of living, the happiest citizens, and oh, by the way, the best opportunities. And I want to put Virginia in that category, where Virginians can dream their biggest dream and then go get it. And right now, Virginia suffers under two terms of progressive liberal policies that have put Virginia in the ditch. And that's why I quit my job. And that's why we're going to get her out and put Virginia back where she belongs as the best state in America.
So the man that you want to replace, as you know, who happens to call himself a doctor, I'm sure that you heard what he said a couple of years ago about abortion. And so I know our listeners want to hear your response to that before you go. First of all, what was your response to that? And what are you going to do differently than what he's done?
Well, it is probably one of the most amazing moments where we had someone who actually is a pediatrician stand up and support legislation that would keep a child comfortable while the decision is made about whether that child lives or dies.
Yeah.
The amazing thing is Terry McAuliffe supported that legislation and called it common sense legislation.
Yeah.
Now, friends, this is the stark difference in the decision that we are all going to make this fall.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to stand up and say, no more? I mean, Terry McAuliffe thinks that we should absolutely have abortions all the way up into late into the third trimester, if not, in this case, after a child is born.
Yeah.
He wants to fund them with taxpayer dollars. And we just can't, as Virginians, conceive that that is the law of the land.
Right.
And the great thing here is this is a vast majority issue for Virginians.
Yeah.
Which is to stand up and say, absolutely not.
Right.
And so Virginians should know that I'm pro-life. I will stand up for the unborn. I do believe there should be exceptions in the case of rape and incest and when the life of the mother is absolutely at risk, threatened. And what we see now is that this left liberal progressive agenda has just taken Virginia someplace where we do not even recognize it.
Yeah.
And that's why I felt such a sense of purpose when I stepped out of my job last summer and we started the process of running for governor.
Mm-hmm.
Because we felt like that Virginians collectively, not just Republicans, but all Virginians, independents and Democrats alike, are so ready for a new day, an outsider, someone who understands how to get things done, who can run with a great ticket with Winsome Sears and Jason Miyares and direct Virginia to a new place where we really are the best place in America to live or work and raise a family.
Amen. Glenn Youngkin, it's been an honor to have you on. We hope to have you on again soon, and best of luck in your race.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope you have a blessed day.
Same to you. God bless you. This is the Patriot and the Preacher Show, and we'll be right back.